Spaun Sports Podcast.
Welcome to the All Sports Podcast with me, Matt, and today, Joel. How are you, mate?
Hey, Matt. All good, mate.
Right. Straight into, we're going to cover mainly golf and F1 today. We'll start with the golf, the US Open at Oakmont, the hardest course I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. They're all
And
getting...
I've got an issue. I've got issues with it.
Well, they all were getting in their next to us just about it, weren't they?
It's more like crazy golf. The undulation of both the fairways with extreme cambers and also the greens, the enormous greens, and actually just it looks from an aerial view like this really big open course where in comparison to Augusta, which is incredibly closed off and manicured. I know Oakmont is incredibly manicured as well, but it was just like this crazy golf course. And my biggest issue is that par is supposed to be what is expected elite golfers to be able to hit on that. Or, I don't think, actually, let's just check. I don't think it's even elite golfers.
And, like, over multiple rounds, you would expect them to knock a couple underneath that. And
here we go. In golf, par is the predetermined number of strokes that a skilled golfer should ideally need to complete a hole.
Yeah.
Now, I would say, and this is my umbrage, is that the players competing at the US Open are beyond skilled. They are at the top of the skill level in the world, and they should be shooting under par. Par around Oakmont is not par. A par 3 that is 300 yards and a difficult green to get to and putt on isn't a par 3. It didn't play as a par 3. So yeah, that's my issue with it. Is I watched incredibly high skilled top of the game golfers play bad golf for 4 days, which took the enjoyment away. Some people enjoy watching them scramble around and how they then adjust their game, but it's not the golf I enjoy.
I think if you're there, you can really appreciate that. But watching through the telly, I think that's harder to appreciate that because, like you say, you just want to, and you also want to build up to big moments. And I feel like there weren't that many of those. Like they'd build, a couple of them would build up some momentum. I'm thinking of Tyrrell Hatton and Burns as well, Sam Burns, and then a couple of like really bad holes and they're out of it. Whereas that means that the margin for error is tiny. And I feel like on a normal round, a couple of bad holes knocks you back, but you're still in it. Whereas at Oakmont, I feel like they were taking themselves out of contention very quickly. I mean, obviously the conditions played a big part in it as well. It was really tough conditions. And is it the toughest track on the tour? I think it probably is, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Certainly in the US PGA, there may be other tours that have difficult courses, and there may be other courses that are championship courses that are incredibly difficult, but this is the hardest that I know of.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned the size of the greens, and for Spaun to put the one in at the end from one side of those greens to the other.
64, credit to him.
Yeah.
He had to 2-putt from 64 feet. It wasn't a done deal.
It was possibly 3 as well, though, wasn't it? 3 might be as well.
3 putts for... Yeah, so 3 putts would have given him a bogey. Yeah, so he'd have still had it. They said basically two putts for the US Open would have had him at even. 3 putts would have pushed him back to +1. Yeah, because he birdied it, didn't he? Yeah, because it went down in 1.
Yeah.
But yeah, JJ Spaun. So after watching him against McIlroy at the Players earlier this year and then go to the playoff, he is on form. He's a player that's been on tour now for 10, 12 years and is starting to play better golf, but I wouldn't have ever considered him a contender this week. I thought that the Players was a one-off, but yeah, he certainly built something from that. I thought at the Players he kind of started to lose his head and his mentality a little bit, and I thought the same was going to happen, but credit to him. He played 2 exceptional rounds. His first round and his third round is were exceptional. In his fourth round, he did what he needed to do with other people falling away. Obviously, he was playing with Sam Burns, who hit a 78, was leading, and then obviously dropped down to 4 over. But I thought Sam Burns, with the way that he had played on the Friday and Saturday, hitting a 65, which 65 was just incredible.
Yeah, I mean, that's the low score, right?
I think it was, yeah.
Low score.
There was some
Yeah, so Spaun got 66. Can't see many others. 67 Ortiz.
Yeah, Thurston Lawrence got a 67 on day one as well, the South African.
Yeah, Scott got a 67 as well. I'm Scott. Yeah, I mean, I would say I don't know a lot about Spaun, to be honest, and I don't really feel like he's in contention that often. Like you say, the players he was in and around it. Maybe it helped him that he didn't really put rounds. It's going to sound a bit silly because he put 4. If you average out his 4 rounds, put these ones together, but he didn't have a really good one and then another really good one. So he wasn't he was never really leading. He wasn't sitting on a lead overnight or anything like that. So I wonder if that helped him a little bit.
Yeah, he actually lost his card. He lost his card in 2021. And then and I think dropped out of the top 500 in world golf.
Oh, wow, really?
And he's not exactly built back up incredibly since then. So he is. I'd said it actually that we might get another kind of Brian Harman result.
Well, the US Open has a tendency to throw up not random, but unknowns as winners.
Or definitely unexpected because they're probably fairly well known to the
diehards.
Yeah, probably the diehard, certainly the diehard PGA Tour followers. JJ Spaun will only really have been on people's radar this year from the players. Aside from that, he's missed cuts. He's missed cuts in the majors. Got a 20-something in a major and 50th in a major, but has missed a few cuts as well, and has only played a handful of majors. So yeah, he's not a player that you would have considered in contention going into this week. I thought he'd probably fall away. I thought Scotty could still charge at any point. I thought Scotty's not out of it. And then with Adam Scott having major pedigree, I thought he was a very good shout. And just the way Victor Hovland plays, and with the green softer due to the rain, I thought he was going to be more attacking, and it just didn't come to fruition. Watching him seemingly hack out of the rough, a ball 30 yards, and then into the bunker to rough, scuffing it out of the rough like he's a 20 handicapper. It's just that's not fun golf for me, watching someone that is at the absolute pinnacle of tour golf.
Yeah. Rob McIntyre, I feel like he enjoys the US Open. Maybe not.
Hey, look, he is going to be one that the US team are going to be watching out for now in the Ryder Cup. He's in the side, and I think he's going to be one of our leading contenders. He's really starting to build up a catalogue of performances, and I don't think it's going to be long before he gets a major.
I thought he'd already won one. Why did I think he'd already won one? He was close in the Open a couple of times, wasn't he? Close in the PGA once as well. I had in my head that he'd won one, but maybe it was one of those Opens that I was thinking about. So yeah, good to see him up there. Good, and look, like I say, Hatton fell away a little bit, but it is good to see him playing some decent golf. But you just worry about him being consistent over the 4 days, isn't it? That's what he finds the hard.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I feel like since the move to Live, he's kind of fallen away a little bit. I feel like he was competitive ahead of that, and then I don't know, he's not really...
Yeah, other than Bryson, I feel like they all have. I don't think Rahm, I feel like it has been most detrimental for.
Yeah, Bryson is not there, is he? How many did he miss the cut by? Yeah, he was 10 over.
McIlroy was 10 over at one point as well.
Scrambled though, didn't it? I think what's going on? I feel like there's been a lot of focus on him and his form, but we're only a couple of months after that Masters win, so I feel like that's a bit overblown. There's all this driver stuff going on, which is clearly
But that
impacting.
driver's stuff, Scotty Scheffler said, yeah, I've had that too. It's no big deal. I
No.
think the problem is Rory's made it a deal. He didn't want it to come out. He
Yeah.
didn't want any reasons for his golf to be questioned. He didn't want any attention on that. He just wanted the focus to be on his golf. So any distraction really frazzles him.
Yeah, he was definitely frazzled. Was it Saturday that he did his interview with Sky Sports?
Yes, yeah, because he didn't do the first 2 days. That's interesting. Yeah, let's talk about that. Go on then.
Well, I just thought frazzled is exactly the word, like giving answers, and then somebody eventually asks him about like why he's been skipping the media the last couple of days. They seem to I thought it was interesting that somebody asked the question, feels like you're daring the tour to make it mandatory to speak to the press, and Roy was like, what? No, that's not what I'm doing. I like that I don't have to do that. It's a complete luxury that I wouldn't want to be taken away. So they are they are intimating agendas to his behaviour, which might not be true, which I think is what is going to be annoying, right? They were saying that they kind of analysed the interview on Sky Sports shortly after it, and yeah, there was a fella on there saying, you just don't want to be there sometimes. And Rory said that himself in the interview. He said, I didn't really I was trying to. It was a bit easier to play well on the back nine because I didn't really care if I made the cut or not. Like staying for another 2 days didn't really feel like something that I wanted to do. And then he ends
Or
up
talk about.
We'll talk about it, exactly.
The whole world.
Yeah,
it's funny actually. I was saying to you earlier before we recorded about the interview I did with Donny at Carry and with Robin Williams, the European Tour golfer. And one of the things Donny asked was the view on doing interviews and like the media obligation to do that straight after, because the media want to know it's either it was a great performance or it was a terrible performance. They don't want to hear from you if you just shot par. They only want to hear the highlights or the lowlights, and they want the extreme reaction. It's clickbaity. They want something that's going to be good for the viewer to watch, and that isn't necessarily good for the player. And I get why McIlroy doesn't want that. The added pressure, the added stress of it, as many other players feel the same, and we see it in tennis as well. It's the same. You come off and it's like in tennis it kind of is mandatory, or is expected at least. But the only issue I would have with McIlroy's response was, I've earned the right to not do it, and I don't like that, because
I'm going
to say that only if you've won majors do you not have to talk to the media, and I think that's wrong. I think part of it is it's a privilege for the viewership to be able to get those first-hand views, but we don't watch the golf for his personality post-game. We watch it for his quality on course.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's an earned thing at all, that you earn the right to not do it. It is just your prerogative. It's your prerogative, the same as it was JJ Spaun's before he had won a major, for him to talk or not talk to the media. Same as it is for one of the amateur guys that's not won anything on tour and isn't a professional player. They have the prerogative to not talk to the media. It isn't an earned right. And that, I think that probably, two views on it. One, it was almost like he's forced into a corner and he's saying things that he wouldn't normally have said if he had thought more about a media-trained response. I think it was a little knee-jerk reaction-y.
I think he wasn't just talking about the golf he's played as well, though. I think he's also referring to the fact of how vocal he's been and how protective he's been of the tour over the last few years. I don't know if that's wearing on him a little bit as well, like those conversations that he's been involved in the background.
One of the figureheads. The figureheads in the voice pieces for the tour, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's made his bed there now, and he's kind of having to lie in it, which means more attention, more scrutiny on his agendas, like I say, and stuff like that. So yeah, I think he's coming at it from I've won all the majors, so I can do what I want, but also I've given a lot to the tour over the last few years, so not doing these not doing these media interviews post-playing feels like a privilege for him that he can kind of exercise whenever he wants.
Without having to have the scrutiny and then it be a bigger deal the next time he does it. It's a little bit of a battle that he's going on at the moment just to work out what structure he has in a tournament that gives him the protected space he needs mentally to perform best, to prepare best, and to perform best in competition. And he's not cracked that formula yet. I'm glad he cracked it for the Masters, but I don't know that. I think it was kind of by accident. I think it was by fluke or skill. He was going to win the Masters at some point, as we all know.
Yeah. I just hope we just need him to get himself right for September, don't we? That's the main thing.
I don't see it being an issue. What I think helps him is having Lowry.
Yeah.
Having Lowry playing good golf, one of his mates. I think, he gets on great with the European guys. We've got some nice young up-and-comers coming on. Thomas Dietrich's now in contention for a place, and he played well at points over this weekend. Had some good highlight reels, obviously. We spoke about Tizzy Hatton playing some good golf. Matt Fitzpatrick. Was it the US Open? So, and then we spoke about Bob McIntyre earlier as well. Obviously, Rahm needs to start playing some golf. Got the Højgaard twins as well. I feel like the European team has got a lot of potential there to do very, very well against the US team. I feel like there is just a couple of people whose names start with sh that are going to carry Team USA in Scheffler and Schauffele.
Yeah, Scheffler and Schauffele are both in good form, aren't they? Koepka had a decent weekend.
He did, and he always pops up. If he's playing well on Live, I don't have a clue.
No.
But he always pops up in majors. That just about wraps us for today. If you've enjoyed listening along, you can like and subscribe on Spotify and YouTube. You can get in touch on email at
allsportspods@gmail.com.
Excellent.
Thanks.
And we will see you on the next one. Cheers.